That's something that I feel like we haven't addressed quite so much, and that's progressive Muslims. I was looking in your book, and one of the things that you mentioned was moderate Islam doesn't exist so much across the world. Personally speaking, I tend to draw a distinction between progressive Muslims and moderate Muslims. I think that there's a difference in how we reach out to them and how we can include them in a discussion that doesn't mean leading them further. So my question is, what do you think contributes to moderate Muslims becoming more radicalized, and how do we disassociate them from that and move them towards becoming more progressive, wanting to have a discussion? And do you think that any of the rhetoric that we use contributes to any of that at all? Yeah.
Not at all. In the first place, the idea that we drive Muslims to become radicalized by talking about the violent passages or violent teachings within Islam, I think that's a completely false assumption that's designed to inhibit people from speaking honestly about these violent aspects of Islam. But the thing is, first a clarification, there is no moderate Islam. There are plenty of moderate Muslims. In other words, there are a lot of Muslims who just want to live their lives and not kill anybody and not subjugate anybody and not oppress anybody, and they're Muslims. The human nature is everywhere the same, and people are people everywhere. But the thing is, these things are in the teachings of all the sects and schools of Islam. So somebody becomes devout and knowledgeable and interested in following the teachings of Islam, that's when they tend to become so-called radicalized. Now, the thing is, what drives a moderate to become radicalized is precisely that. In virtually every case, they decide to become more religious. People become more religious all the time, in all kinds of religions, in all kinds of contexts, usually in a personal crisis, or they're depressed, or they feel like their life has no purpose or something, and they become more religious. If they identify with Islam, then you get a case like Muhammad Reza Tahiri Azhar, who was an Iranian exchange student in University of North Carolina, who was, drinking beer and getting high and doing everything that kids in college do today, right? And then he decided that his life was meaningless and purposeless, and he decided, I'm going to find out about my religion. He didn't know anything about it. And so he got a Quran, he started reading it, and he thought, oh, I have to wage jihad against unbelievers. He wasn't talking to anybody, he was just reading the book. And ultimately he rented a van, an SUV, drove it onto the campus, tried to run down as many students as he could. He didn't kill anybody, he injured 9 before he was stopped. But the point is, what radicalized him? It was the Quran. And we see this over and over again, that Muslims who are relatively secular, who are not paying attention to the teachings of the religion, for whatever reason they become more devout. They adopt the Islamic dress, grow the long beard out, or if you're a woman, wear the hijab or the niqab or whatever, and they end up going in this direction. It doesn't mean that everybody will, who does become more devout, but it is a one-to-one correlation that everybody who does go in this direction is more devout. So, I don't think there's a lot of grievance rhetoric out there about people saying that we're just driving Muslims into the arms of ISIS. If they didn't believe that there was some legitimacy to waging war against unbelievers, then it wouldn't matter what anybody did. Nobody would join Al-Qaeda or ISIS unless they believed that, no matter what was done to them. You could do anything you want to me. Step on my blue suede shoes, and I would not join Al-Qaeda or the Islamic State. It's just not something I'm ever going to do. But if I believe that somewhere, under some conditions, no matter how nice and sweet and gentle a guy I am, that waging war against unbelievers is part of what's good and acceptable before God, then maybe there is some point at which I would do that. And so that calls into question whether those people were really moderate or progressive to start with at all. They were just, people have different influences in their lives. People have different priorities, different things calling upon their attention. Their religion is one, but there's a lot of others. And then when the religion becomes paramount in an Islamic context, then it can lead to this kind of behavior.
Okay, we have time for